Warning. Censorship. Warning. Censorship. Warning. Censorship. Warning.
David, we're on. David, we're on. What are you doing? David, we're on. We're on, David.
Well, folks, welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this Thursday, October 14th.
Welcome.
2021. Nobody gave me a countdown. I think my earpiece might not be working. There it is. It's working now, I think. I am very sorry for the unprofessionalism. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host is Sheila, the she-devil Gunn Reid, the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. I know that was toned down in an high-energy Andrew Says fashion, but what can I say? I'm deeply embarrassed. Sheila, get me out of this mess, will you?
You know what, David? It's fine. Everybody at home got a little treat of what I have to listen to before I come on air. David munching in my ear because I'm captive. I'm waiting for the countdown. I'm waiting for the sufficient YouTube warning, and David's sitting there munching in my ear like a little squirrel. And now everybody at home got to experience that little behind-the-scenes aspect of my life now too. Thank you. Oh. Things are happening here on the stream. Oh, okay, that's fixed.
I profusely apologize. I was so intrigued with the news of the day and my peanuts, that is. And those two monkeys behind the booth there, Maurizio and Andrew, I'm going to have a talk with you after the show, let me tell you. So, in any event,
Andrew
Sheila,
didn't do that to you. Andrew didn't do that to you. You did that to you.
Sheila, why don't we get right to business? Why don't you tell the folks the ostensible policy reason of this show, which is to not watch me eating peanuts and reading the newspaper, but to actually talk about the issues of the day. And there is a way, indeed, the folks can contribute. And please be easy on me in your criticism today, William.
Yes, this is something more than just the ant farm of David Menzies' life.
Oh, no.
This is the Rebel News daily live stream. We used to just stream on Fridays. It used to just be hosted by Ezra Levant. But then the pandemic struck. There was more news than ever. We couldn't really travel because everybody was grounded. So we thought, why not talk about the news every single day as it's changing? Because that's the thing about the pandemic. The restrictions are changing every day. One day, Jason Kenney is like, what's a vaccine passport? The next day you got a vaccine passport. So sometimes that is best talked about as it's changing and as it's breaking. However, Joe Biden got elected, and then YouTube, the mask slipped on YouTube, and YouTube was like, oh, all you conservative content creators, you're completely demonetized. And we were one of those people. So they took a big $400,000 chunk right out of the middle of our company. But we love our YouTube subscribers. There are 1.5 million of you. We don't want to abandon you.
Yep.
So we start our broadcast on YouTube, but then we migrate it off, and we hope that some of you or all of you would join us on one of the other platforms. And they aren't particularly conservative platforms. They just sort of don't care what your political leanings are. And that's, you know, the best you can really get. And those other platforms that we stream on are Rumble, Odyssey, and Super U. And all of those platforms leave you the opportunity to support us completely willingly out of the goodness of your own heart because you want us to keep going and fighting for freedom. You can leave us something called a Rumble rant, a Super U shout, or an Odyssey hyper chat. You can tip us as a creator, or you can leave us what is it? A hyper chat on Odyssey. And if you want, if you're feeling futuristic, you can leave us that in the form of a library cryptocurrency, which I don't understand. I get emails every single day. Sheila, you got to learn about cryptocurrency. And I know I do. I even own some. I know it's the way of the future. I know it's like this decentralized monetary system. I just, I only have enough brain capacity, lifting power, horsepower for certain things in a day. And that is just, it keeps getting knocked down the list, but I promise I'm going to learn. And so that's what we're doing here at Rebel News. And we're not even joking when we say that YouTube is gone full censorship, because they haven't just demonetized us. If you watch us on YouTube, you'll notice, why are the videos only like 2 or 3 minutes long? They used to be 17 minutes long. They used to be 9 minutes long. It's because we can only get so far into a video, and then we are in YouTube red zone. And so instead of just nuking the channel, we stop the video, cut in, and say, we've hit the censorship line. And if you want to hear the rest of the story, the truth, all the facts, then you have to join us on one of these other platforms. And if you ever come across a video like that, if you look in the description box to the video, we'll include a link to a less censorious platform where you can watch that video in full. So if you're looking at our YouTube page and you're like, what's going on here? Like, why is everything just these short little bites? That's all we can give you on YouTube. But we promise we are doing the work. It's just hidden somewhere else.
Yeah, Sheila, in the department of what's going on here, as you were speaking, half a peanut fell out of my hair. I don't know how it got there in the first place.
That's something that happens to me. I get food and things stuck in there.
I know. Ever since I saw Carrie back in 1976, whenever I'm in a foreign environment, I'm always looking up to make sure there's not a bucket of pig's blood about to fall on me. So that's why I don't usually go to my high school reunions. So much to discuss. Why don't we talked about this at length yesterday. It's 24 hours, basically, Sheila, after the verdict of Justice Adam Germain. I still can't believe it. I still have never, and I did a little researching. I don't think I've come across anything in terms of a justice ruling a person who is espousing an opinion either in the public square, on social media, to give the government side equal billing. The closest thing I remember to this, it was two fellows. This is going back to the early 90s. I'm going by memory. And they were in Toronto's gay village. They were cruising down Church and Wellesley in their Camaro. And they yelled out a derogatory term for gay people. And one thing led to the other. There was a scuffle. When it went to the court, what the judge ruled was that they would have to make a public apology, and also each of them had to write a 10,000-word essay on great gay people. And Sheila, I would have paid $1,000 to read those essays, right? Because these two Lugans, they're not men of words, right? This is not the Shakespearean set, right? And and that's why it made the news. It was an unusual punishment in terms of convincing these two guys to write essays applauding the people that they were mocking in their original drive-by. That's the closest I can come to this justice, Sheila, forcing Artur to give the government propaganda side of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it before. I don't even think that in a courtroom we can compel a murderer to offer an apology to the family of the person that he killed. And yet, this judge, Justice Adam Germain, a failed Liberal candidate, a federal Liberal candidate from 20 some odd years ago, he has decided that it is his duty to compel the speech of Chris Scott, a small town restaurant owner who just would not go broke quietly enough for the government, and Artur and David Pawlowski, who just won't turn away their congregants to meet an arbitrary government benchmark. It went so far as the judge himself reading into the record what he thought the script would be. So he had a prepared script, he had written it out, and he read it in open court what he thought these three men would say every time they gave a public speech or made a social media posting about what they thought about the government measures, that they had to then give this little, Pfizer salesman sidebar, I guess is what I would call it. And
Pardon me.
I don't know how that will be able to stand up to a legal challenge. I just don't know. I guess it's for the lawyers to decide. I know that Chris Scott's lawyer, Chad Williamson, talked to him yesterday. He's working on something. We know Sarah Miller, she's working on something. But this has got to be one of the craziest decisions I have ever seen. And very clearly, the judge misread the room. Because I think the judge thought, well, I want to throw them in jail. Everything up until he said they're not going to jail told me that they were going to jail. I was actually extra pessimistic. I was feeling the same way I felt on Trump election night, where I thought, okay, we're going to lose. I thought not only are we going to lose, they're not getting 21 days, they're getting 40. And I think the judge thought, well, this is a way for me to avoid that absolute insane firestorm I'm about to drop on the government's lap and on his own lap by putting them in jail for 21 or 40 days, by compelling speech, which is such a liberal thing to do, to think that compelling speech, compelling the consciences of free men in a free society would actually be better than locking them up. For me, it's worse. I'd rather go to jail for 21 days and be able to speak my heart.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more, Sheila. This is a thought prison that Pastor Art is in right now. And it really is something lifted from 1984, isn't it? Where the government is mandating what you think and what you say. And I think, Sheila, Pastor Art might already be in breach of those orders.
Oh, for sure.
And in fact, I don't know, guys, do we have a clip of Adam Seuss interviewing Pastor Art just moments after the decision? Because you might be able to make the argument that, I don't know, he's already in contempt of court if Justice Germain considers his rules being broken as an actual contempt act. It is stunning. And the idea that when he said that his statement to the court was a taunt, that he condemned Pastor Art for making himself a martyr. These are all the judge's words, folks.
Yep.
That he went to the USA. Oh, how dare he go to the land of the First Amendment to have interviews. My goodness, shockers. And he went on Fox News and... Sheila, he embarrassed the government. No, he didn't. The government embarrassed itself in Alberta and elsewhere. Don't shoot the messenger here. And again, the idea of publicly criticizing the public health orders without giving the other side, i.e., I see you've got defund AHS, without giving the Alberta Health Services point of view, defund. You know what, Sheila? I wonder if Justice Germain might take offense to that T-shirt.
Come and get me.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Come and get me.
Well, careful what you wish for. I don't know what's happening in Alberta. I've long said the 2 years I spent reporting in Alberta, I always considered the most American of the Canadian provinces. And
the people still are. The people still are. The powers that be are not.
It's baffling because it is... technically a conservative government in charge right now and has been in charge during this pandemic. So it's just, I don't know, it is baffling the government's role in this pandemic. And didn't one of the lawyers call Mr. Germain's ruling bizarre?
Yes. And Pastor Art's lawyer did. And usually lawyers are not that critical of a judge's ruling. They're far more diplomatic. They leave the criticism of these crazy rulings to us.
Yes.
But I mean, for her, it was like nothing she had ever seen. And, to hear the judge be offended that Pastor Art went on a speaking tour in the United States. It is the court system and Alberta Health Services and the Alberta government that created the primordial goo that caused the speaking tour. Americans looked upon what is happening here, and they still do, with shock and horror, because they have the First Amendment and they have freedom of religion, and they cannot believe what they are seeing when they see the treatment of our pastors, our small business owners being taken away in handcuffs because they won't turn away their customers or mask up their congregants. They look at it with absolute shock and disgust. And so they wanted to hear the story of the man who was living through what Alberta Health Services and Justice Adam Germain is doing to him. They created the demand. Justice Adam Germain created the demand for Pastor Art to tell his story by causing the story. And so he should not be offended. And how dare he say to Pastor Art, basically the insinuation is, you're not taking this quietly enough, which is why Chris Scott went to jail. We seized your property, Chris Scott, and you didn't put up with it quietly enough. For Pastor Art, we didn't violate your religious freedom, and you didn't do it quietly enough. It's outrageous. And they're mad at him because they're mad at both of them, really, or all three of them, because they told the world what was happening in Alberta. And that brought shame upon Alberta. But that shame was not caused by those men. It was caused by the powers that be.
You know, Sheila, great points. And here is what I think is the big question. And that is the Justice Adam Germain, he has said what Pastor Art must do when it comes to speaking. We know Pastor Art is not going to obey that. So The big question to me is enforcement. Is this justice going to monitor what Pastor Art is saying? And when he sees it's violated, and like I said, it might already have been violated, I think. But say in the hours and days ahead, there is a clear violation of the judge's orders. Will this be enforced, or will this justice realize how much he's publicly embarrassed himself and just turn a blind eye and hope that this fiasco, this justice fiasco, goes away on its own accord?
Justice Adam Germain and Alberta Health Services might be the two most least aware things that I have ever seen in my entire life. You know, Chris Scott in particular, he exercised free speech by holding a protest against the government seizing his property. And so they arrest him, throw him in jail, and the condition of his sentence is to not have free speech. And they don't get it. They just don't get it. You know, if they arrest these guys for violating it, and I think they will, it's just going to blow up in their face again. And what are they going to do? Throw them in jail? Cut out their tongues? It's just, I mean, I heard Justice Adam Germain remark in a bad way that Pastor Art had his picture taken with a United States senator. That should have been, that should have been deeply embarrassing to Justice Adam Germain, that a United States senator took his picture with Pastor Art, meaning a United States senator in the land of the free, the home of the brave, the place of the First Amendment, said, I stand with Pastor Art against what his own government is doing to him. But instead, Justice Adam Germain took it as, oh, he's doing this for attention. No, Justice Adam Germain, it is people like you that prompted Josh Hawley to advise that Canada be put on a watch list when it comes to religious freedoms. And we deserve to be on that watch list at this point.
Yeah, imagine that, taking your picture with a senator of the greatest,
Just see a tweet from
the most free republic in the world, and that's worthy of this judge's condemnation. Well, I can tell you, needless to say, Sheila, as you know, the big boss man, Ezra, flipped his lid.
He was on fire. He was on fire.
I'm just going back in time to think about the last time the boss dropped an F-bomb on a live
air.
feed. But hey, folks, I can't blame him. That's how outrageous this decision is. Why don't we throw to a clip, rather, of Ezra reacting to this ruling?
I just see a tweet from Sheila Gunn Reid, who's live tweeting the proceedings. Let me read it to you. The judge is giving the three men, so that's Artur Pawlowski, his brother David, and Chris Scott of the Whistle Stop Diner, a specific script that they are obligated to post every time they express a view contrary to Alberta Health Services on social media or anywhere else regarding masks, distancing, and vaccines. Well, let me say this right now, that the Rebel News Network will give Artur, David, and Chris, and any other Canadian or any other person elsewhere a forum to say whatever the hell they want to about the Alberta Health Services, about the lockdown, and about this judge. And if this judge thinks that Rebel News Network will post some Communist Party-style official statement as a rebuttal to Artur Pawlowski, then I would invite that judge to come on and explain himself and his un-Canadian views. I think that sentencing Artur Pawlowski to prison would have been an embarrassment to the judge, and he would have been a global embarrassment, which is why he panicked and clearly did the opposite of what he thinks the law to be. But by demanding that a Christian pastor give that, by the way, that went to the Supreme Court in the 1930s. Let me give you a little history, Adam Sos. There was a tyrant in Alberta named Bible Bill Aberhart. He was the premier of the province, and he had this kooky scheme called social credit, where he would print funny money, as it was called. And the media mocked him. So he passed a series of laws called the Press Act that said every newspaper in Alberta, I don't know if you know this, Adam, every newspaper in Alberta had to run a rebuttal by the government alongside it. Did you know that, Adam? Every newspaper in Canada, in Alberta, had to run a rebuttal to themselves. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Edmonton Journal won a Pulitzer Prize for standing up to the tyrant Bible Bill Aberhart. Adam Germain is the tyrant of 2021 with his own Press Act. And you know what? We'll get a Pulitzer here at Rebel News because we're going to fight that tyrant every step of the way. Adam, you're doing great reporting. I have to break away. I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, David Menzies, and I think Sheila Gunn Reid is going to join soon, too. I'm afraid I have to leave this broadcast. But
you know, isn't that amazing, Sheila? Ezra referring to the 1930s Bible Bill Aberhart and his jihad on the media. And you know, we talked about this yesterday, how times have changed in one regard. The Edmonton Journal rightfully won a Pulitzer Prize almost a century ago, chronicling this kind of tyrannical insanity. Today, I imagine the Edmonton Journal reporters are cheering on the judge for clamping down on Pastor Art and for clamping down on freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of expression. So in one regard, it's deja vu all over again, but it has a very bitter twist, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know, there are things that we could get to about why it's perfectly reasonable to question Alberta Health Services, given that they just publish fake news and make families relive trauma and pain and death of their loved ones to rebut the fake news. And we'll get to that in a second, but I don't know if we can do that on YouTube. So we'll finish. Yeah, right. Because we can't blaspheme against our new deities of the cult of public health.
You know, I wonder if the reincarnated soul of Bible Bill Aberhart is running YouTube, Sheila, because this is kind of you know, Bill's way of handling free speech. I can't tell the difference between what he did in the 30s and what the Silicon Valley tech giants are doing in 2021.
And how the heck do you know if what you're publishing from Alberta Health Services is right? Because they change their viewpoint on stuff as the days go by. Oh, God, I feel like we're running right up to the line here because there's like something I want to say and I have to pull it back because there are things that like Alberta Health Services was advising you to do something on a Friday, and by Monday, the advisory had changed and they had decided that was dangerous. But on Friday, they were bullying you and shaming you into doing something, which I can't even talk about on YouTube. So maybe we'll say goodbye to YouTube probably.
Well, au revoir, goodbye, good riddance, as the case may be.
No, but not to the viewers. The viewers, you come. Goodbye, awful YouTube viewers. Join us on Rumble, Odyssey, and Super U.
Yeah, of course, I mean to the censorious thugs in Silicon Valley. And please come on over to Super U, Rumble, and Odyssey. Those are three of the platforms that still respect freedom of speech. So I think we're good to go. We're